we're really, really excited about this. This is the first intertribal gathering in Oklahoma to really talk about resilience to the way our planet is changing. And it is so exciting to think it's happening, that not leadership, but just that is the place where people are coming together to do that is here in Mvskoke Nation and on original allotment land. And to me, that's just a really, really exciting thing. We have people here. We have First Nations folks from up in Canada, Cree Nation. We have Indigenous people from Mexico. We've got a lot of representatives from tribes in Minnesota, New Mexico, West Coast. All over North America is tribes and tribal members and Indigenous people are coming together to have this conversation. And how do we protect our culture and keep our culture, which is so rooted in the past, but it's so much a part of the today and also the future? How do we protect the resources that are a part of that? And some of that is about the science, and some of it is about the culture and listening to elders and that wisdom. So we've tried to create a space today where all of those different things can come together, and in our different Indigenous brothers and sisters from across North America can come bring their wisdom and their ways to share, and so we can collaborate as we try and solve these problems. My great-grandmother, Euchee, her father was born during removal, and so he was born during the Trail of Tears on the removal from the homelands. And when she was 16 years old in 1899, we've still got the copy of the original allotment application. He picked out this allotment for her, and we've been here ever since, So when I'm here on this land where we've been for so long, literally if you and I walked over, I could, 3 minutes away, I can show you where my grandmother was born in a little log cabin in 1915. And my mother spent all of her summers, growing up down here with her grandmother in the old wooden farmhouse with no running water, no electricity. We've been here a very long time, and it's always been a place of sanctuary. One of the things my great-grandmother felt so strongly about was using the land for her people, yes, obviously, for her family, obviously, but just for even the extended community, and using that rich farmland to grow food, always welcoming, and that little tiny farmhouse, always so crowded with people even sleeping on porches and in barns, because that was a safe place and it was sanctuary. And now here at the farm, we've got 14 acres of true original native prairie remnant that's never been plowed. In that, there are over 400 species of plants, many species of animals that aren't, and we've got documentation of several different species that aren't found anywhere else in Oklahoma anymore, but they're still here. We're still here. And so to be able to have this now as a place that also is, a form of sanctuary for people to come and learn about pollinators and figure out, how do you integrate, revitalization of Indigenous language into that whole equation too. I mean, all of those things can happen here, and to me, it's just really beautiful to have it on land that literally has never been out of Native hands. So to me, that's powerful that we're starting this conversation, and it's happening here in Mvskoke Nation. People toss around that idea a lot about pollinators, the importance of pollinators. And unfortunately, the first thing that many people think of is the honeybee, which is actually not native. It's a colonial invader. It's not one of our native bees, but that's okay. It is a pollinator, but the real workhorses of pollination are beautiful little native bees, are even flies, butterflies, obviously. And the thing to understand about it is that over 80% of plants on Earth, terrestrial Earth, require pollinators to continue living. And a third of all agricultural crops require pollinators to produce their fruit. So if we do not, they're disappearing. They're disappearing, like with monarchs, they're so big and showy, we notice when that they're disappearing, oh wow, hundreds of millions of monarchs are gone. But monarchs are just the canary in the coal mine for what's happening with all of our pollinators. And these ecosystems that they are a part of are so beautiful and complex and delicate that as we start losing them to lack of habitat, too much pesticide, too much herbicide, And as they disappear, it's like links in a chain. And as those things collapse, they will not come back again. So part of it's about saving this beautiful world that the Creator gave us, but it's also about saving ourselves, because when we lose those pollinators in parts of China already, they're having to hand pollinate crops. And so, you see these photos and it's like, that's not the world I want to live in. I want us to take better care of the world that we have now that's so beautiful. The Euchees have the saying, which my pronunciation is terrible, but Euchee neno so keneno. We Euchee people, we are still here. And we've beaten all the odds and we survived. I'm betting on those monarchs and the pollinators that they're going to beat the odds and survive too, but they're not going to be able to do it without our help.
I heard about it online on social media. One of my friends had shared it, and then another one of my friends asked me if I was going to attend. And I'm able to come out today, but I have to help with some parental duties tomorrow with my parents, so I can't make it tomorrow, but I'm really excited they allowed me to come out today. And I'm especially interested this year because I work with Euchee Roots Music, and we're putting on the Earth Day celebration at the Guthrie Green next weekend, and we have a ton of really great speakers, and a lot of them are people who are based in the same work that the speakers here today are talking about and working in, so that's been really great. I feel like I've learned a lot of the particulars that you don't really hear about, like the data is not as broken down, which I've really enjoyed. If you're reading it kind of out just on the internet or, in certain publications, you don't really see the data breakdown as much sometimes. And so I've really appreciated the way that they've broken it down for us, and also have really specified what these organizations are doing as far as climate change and pollinator habitat and things like that. I think there's a lot we can do on our behalf, and I think there's a lot we can do in our own backyard and our own front yards. I think with spring, people learning a lot about what a weed actually does and is really important. We see a lot of people, just going out in their yard and spraying things and trying to keep their yards tidy, and just trying to figure out what exactly that does to an environment overall, especially if everyone in your neighborhood's doing it. I think figuring out the type of, pesticides or herbicides, if you have to use them, the type, really learning about what the effects they have and trying to find the ones that are the most eco-friendly is really important. And I think also just teaching children young, and even just, teaching our elders who may not have had that education when they were growing up about, I think if we know more and we know better, then we should try to spread that knowledge as much as possible, starting with our own neighborhoods and our own families and our own communities. And we actually have Pam Kingfisher, who's coming out to our Guthrie Green event next Saturday, is going to be speaking on Euchee activism. Wow. So what we can do in our own state, in our own neighborhoods, as far as being a positive impact in this time of climate change. I think a lot of it is really doable, and I feel like a lot of people, I think the more people know the little things they can do, the bigger ripple effect we'll see. I've really enjoyed learning about the Euchee Butterfly Farm and the Tribal Alliance for Pollinators. It feels like there's a lot of hope in these organizations, and I think that's really important, especially here in an urban setting with Tulsa so close. I think sometimes we can kind of get a little detached from these organizations that are just really close by doing a lot of good work. So I hope that more people learn about them and help kind of help move their efforts forward.